Kelly O'Donnell reporting that Walt Nauta, the co-conspirator, the alleged co-conspirator in this case, is in this motorcade with the former president. As you see on your screen, they make their way here to the federal courthouse in Miami. Let me bring in Hallie Jackson one more time if I can. A lot of discussion already. It hasn't even been arraigned, but the clock, the calendar leading up to the election, what happens if he wins the nomination, what happens if he's elected president again. I know that requires an 8-hour answer, but give me your best
I'll
shot.
try to condense it a bit, and I think some of it will depend on the people we've also learned are traveling in the motorcade with the former president, and those are his attorneys who will be repping him today, Chris Keiss, Todd Blanche, who are with him now, en route, as you say, and Kelly reports, Walt Nauta. Listen, there is a sense that this is likely going to be, on behalf of the Trump defense team as much as they can, slow-rolled to as much as they can until after, potentially, the November election. You know this well, Laura. There's a number of legal maneuvers that they could take to slow this down, and that would not necessarily be disadvantageous to Donald Trump. Because remember, as one Republican source put it to me, Donald Trump is never stronger than when he is able to, in some ways, play the victim of political persecution. And so that is going to matter in the primary contest, which, remember, really only goes until, what, next April, next May, next June, as we look ahead to the convention. After that is the question mark. What happens in the general election? Because right now, while Republicans at this early point seem to continue to be backing Donald Trump, I have heard a lot of conversation from rival campaigns, sources there, from people in the broader Republican orbit who say, hey, can Donald Trump actually win over those voters he has to win over in order to get the electoral votes that he needs in a state like Georgia, for example, where he underperformed back at the last election? So that is where some of the question marks that Chuck was talking about really come into play. You also have to think about what the debates may look like. And I know that there, from sources close to the former president and around him, is conversation about what that looks like. Does he participate at all? When do rival campaigns start to sharpen their knives against Donald Trump on the actual substance of the national security issues raised in this indictment? There are some who raise the prospect of, well, and you hear this, I think, a lot publicly from some Republicans, well, President Biden is also under investigation for having mishandled classified documents. There are some key differences. There's a lot we don't know right now about the Biden case, but there are some key differences, namely, Laura, what you're talking about with the obstruction bucket. Multiple legal experts are telling us if Donald Trump had just handed all this stuff over back in January of 2021, this likely would not have been brought at all. When you look at the charges and the counts in the indictment, they handed over something like 15 boxes of classified documents mid-January. The charges all relate to the documents handed over after that. So there is some discussion about if he had just given it up when he was asked to give it up, then maybe we wouldn't be talking about this at all.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.